welcome to the WCC Rep, where we discuss WCC men's basketball topics of all kinds. We're previewing the 2010-2011 season, and tonight we'll be going over the Pepperdine Waves and the Portland Pilots. So we'll go ahead and start with the team from Malibu. So who returns for the Waves that is really going to stand out this year?
Well, right off the bat, Keon Bell was one of the premier scorers in the WCC last year. He had 35 points, I think it was, at home against Gonzaga in a game they almost won. I think their second best returner is probably Mikal Thompson. He averaged 11.5 points and 5 boards for them last year. Pretty big guy. But I think obviously they're going to be getting a lot of juice from their newcomers. How did their newcomers look?
They have two really good newcomers. There is Jen Mahalan, who is a 7-foot, 340-pound big man. Descriptions of him are like soft hands, good footwork. He reminds you a lot of a young Omar Samhan. He came in with exactly kind of the same skill set and that sort of stuff, but fell kind of under the radar because of his size, and that condition will be one thing that's going to be worked on. We'll see whether or not he redshirts or not. Now the big one is Hector Harold, who's coming in. He had offers from Cal, Stanford, Vanderbilt, and turned all those down to actually play down in Pepperdine. This is a guy who is 6'7" small forward, going to be able to really shake up that offense, be kind of a second option for Keon Bell to take some pressure off of him, also takes a little bit of pressure off Michael Thompson. So this is a guy who's really going to be able to try to help them get out of that dungeon. And they did finish 3-11 in conference play last year. So which games do you see on that schedule are going to be really key for them?
Well, Pepperdine actually has a fairly good schedule. All of their games are road. But as we learned last year about Pepperdine, they can switch at any time. They started WCC play looking really strong. They were 3-0 to start the conference season, and then they went 0-11 after that. But they've got some good games. They're going to be at UCLA, which is going to be an exceptionally hard game. Yeah. And depending on the outcome of that game, they can play either Nevada or Pacific. They've got a game in December at Utah, and then they've got a game in late December at Miami. So a fairly good non-conference schedule for the Waves, but that's also a sign of weakness because nobody's really worried about playing them much.
And they are a team that not a lot of teams are expecting much out of them, so we'll see how the Waves do this season. It's definitely going to be a transition year. I mean, this is a team that will probably return everyone in the 11-12 season. This may be a team that we have to look out for a couple years down the line, not just this coming year.
They do have a lot of potential. Okay. And now let's talk about the Pilots. They finished third in WCC last year for their second year in a row. How do they look coming into the season?
They're definitely in a rebuilding mode, and they lost a lot of key players. You think Niedermeyer is now gone. T.J. Campbell, their point guard, is now gone. Nick Rivio is gone. Like, this is a team that is, you would kind of say, is in a tiny bit of a rebuilding mode, but they do return a few key guys. They do return their starting center, Kramer Knudsen. Like, he was a guy who definitely was banging in there along with Omar Samhan, Robert Sacre, and the other big guys in the conference. Now, I wouldn't say that he's quite on the level of Sacre, who's probably the best big man left in the conference, but he's still going to very serviceable, going to be able to give you good minutes. Another guy, obviously, lights out shooter, Jared Stoll. He's coming. He's going to be lights out. Now, the one thing I've always noticed about Stoltz, he's the type of guy who needs to be completely wide open to get his shot off. So he cannot have a hand in his face, because I know when that happens, he struggles to get his shot off. He starts pressing and that sort of stuff. So this is going to be one key for them, is getting Stoll enough looks in the wide open court to be able to get his shot off. Another guy coming back is going to be Luke Sigma, now coming off the bench for the Pilots.
Well, I think Luke Sigma is probably their X factor. Last year he came off the bench, was really a spark plug for them. He's a really big guy, gets a lot of rebounds, and he comes from great basketball stock. His father played for Seattle in the NBA a couple years ago. But Portland probably, schedule-wise, has the best team coming in, kind of pre-WCC conference. They probably got the best game they're playing Kentucky at the Rose Garden, which is going to be absolutely huge for the Pilots. But other than that, they're probably their best non-conference game is at Washington, which is still a really big game, but Kentucky alone, that makes your schedule.
Yeah, Kentucky returns like they have the best recruiting class, despite the fact they lost almost everybody off last year's squad. Calipari knows what he's doing with recruiting. Maybe not so much coaching, but he does know what he's doing when he's recruiting. Washington is going to be huge because I would say they were probably the early Pac-10 favorite. They returned a lot of their team back. Isaiah Thomas is going to be one of the key guys they have to focus on and contain him. Now, another thing that Portland's going to have going for them is they have 2 different point guards coming in because they do need to replace T.J. Campbell. That was the one thing they needed to address this offseason, and they have done so. Freshman Tim Douglas is coming in and pretty highly recruited, and he's very much of the build of T.J. Campbell. He's short, quick, and is going to have to rely on his speed and basketball know-how to get his passes off. Now, another guy is transferring in is Derek Rogers. He also could be challenging for that starting job. He's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough between those two to see who gets the starting job. I could see where they could be splitting up the minutes pretty evenly, where you might see about 25 minutes from each one of them on a given night.
Yeah, I think the WCC has this talent of bringing in really good young point guards.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. So we'll see you next week when we go over St. Mary's and San Diego.